Hi everyone! Today I'm going to share with you my experience of growing ginger in containers. So last night I was harvesting my ginger that I decided that I want to make a video, but it was too dark. So what I did was I soaked my ginger in water and saved them for this morning to make a video for you, sharing with you my results of growing ginger in a container. So these were the ginger that I grew during the beginning of December, and they took 4 weeks to germinate or to sprout inside during the winter time. And I grew them in this container. Basically, it's a hanging basket container that I just stacked on top of another container to make it a little bit taller. But as you can see, it is about maybe 8 inches deep and about a foot wide. And so by the end of December, it has already started to sprout. I noticed that as the weather got cooler, the leaves started turning brown and yellow at the bottom, as you can see. So what I decided to do was dug up the ginger and see how big the rhizome was at the bottom. And I also wanted to share with you the proper terminology to call the ginger part that we use in cooking. A lot of the time people think that the part that we use to cook with is called the ginger root, and they call it a ginger root, but it's not. The part that we cook with, actually, let me see, this part here is a mature ginger part, and this part that we usually cook with is actually called the ginger rhizome. And the actual roots of the ginger actually looks like roots. So these are roots right here, as you can see, and the roots grow out of the ginger rhizome. What I wanted to share with you is that when I was growing these ginger in a container, I was using average soil. So nothing fancy. A bag of 2 cubic soil costs $6 or $7. That's average. Price for average soil right there. And I didn't add any extra fertilizer or nutrients or compost tea. I just water them. That's it. And I wanted to share with you the result of a harvest of what you might expect if you grow ginger inside in a container using average soil and only giving water. So I actually had about, maybe 4 pieces of ginger that I planted, and these are the results of my harvest when I grew them in regular soil using just water and nothing else special. So these are all of my ginger harvests. And as you can see, when you're using average soil, you get average harvest. These ginger rhizomes are not very big, but they are still perfect to use because these are still very young, even though they had more than 6 months to grow to become mature and big. They're still pretty young, as you can see. And I like these young, tender ginger because they're more and I wanted to share with you how long these roots grow in the container. They are pretty long, as you can see. Let me look at all those root mass. They are pretty darn long. Let's see if we can pick one up and share with you. Look at that. So let's see. Look how long this piece of root is. See that? So that is pretty long, and all those roots were all wrapped up at the bottom of the container. And the ginger grows on the top, close to the soil surface. So that's how ginger grows, and that's what you can expect if you grow ginger in a container. Now, there's something else that I wanted to share with you. If you look closely, there are 2 types of roots. There's this thick, fat root, and then there are these long, thin, tiny roots right there. See that? And I'm not sure what are the purpose of those 2 different kinds of roots are. I'm guessing that both roots are used to feed the plant, but I think the thicker, larger roots are used to break through the soil and the hard clay and other fun stuff to make room for the smaller roots to come out and feed off of the soil. See that? So I think that's the purpose of those thick roots. Is it acts as a huge drill and drills down into the soil, and then once it loosens up the soil, the smaller roots grow out of it, and then it starts feeding the plant. So which is really interesting, and I love the color on this ginger. As you can see, it's quite beautiful. Actually, what I wanted to do today is because I wanted to see if I can replant these ginger if I had already dug it up. And I wanted to see if it can still grow even though I took it out of the soil and cleaned it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is prepare this ginger to be replanted into another larger container, and I'm going to see if it will still continue to grow. What I want to do actually is clean up the roots a little bit. So as you can see, this piece of ginger has really long roots, and when I replant this ginger piece, I don't want to bury all those roots. And actually what I wanted to do is see if I can trim off some of those longer roots, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to trim off that root, and you see that there is a large thick root right here that we talked about. I'm going to just leave it alone. And actually this piece of ginger has two plants. Here's a young one, and here's an older one with the leaves dying. What I want to do actually is cut off the older one with the brown leaf, like so, and leave a little bit of the stalk intact to the ginger rhizome, because now this will start to rot and it will heal, and then this will continue to grow when I plant it in new soil, hopefully. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll show you here. This large piece has a really thick root, and here's another one right here. Actually this one is a little bit damaged, so I'm just going to cut it right there, and I'm going to leave the other fat roots alone. As you can see over here, it has really fat roots. I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm going to trim off the smaller roots down below. So then I am left with a little bit of the smaller roots, and the larger roots are still intact. And this one also has two plants, one young one and one mature one. And I'm going to trim off the mature one, and I'm going to leave the young one that doesn't have the brown leaves to continue to grow. And wow, look at this piece right here. So as you can see, this is how ginger grow. You plant the original ginger piece, and then it has little nodes on the ginger, and it starts to swell, and then it'll grow larger like this, and then it'll send out roots, and then it'll start to grow a ginger plant right here, as you can see. So that is the ginger plant, and then it'll get bigger and start to put out leaves like this. And actually this ginger plant is pretty healthy. It's not brown, it's not yellow, so I won't cut it off even though it's pretty big, but I will trim off some of the smaller roots and the longer ones. See, the first time I'm trying this, I've never replanted ginger that I've dug up before. So I wanted to see if I can replant it while it's still fresh and that I didn't let it dry yet. See, this is a piece of ginger that I had planted during the winter. And as you can see, it doesn't have any large ginger rhizome. it hasn't produced the rhizome yet. You can see that there are buds swelling and it's about to produce the rhizome, but it took more than 6 months to get to this part. Maybe because it was sitting in a container, having to compete with other ginger pieces. I'm not sure, but I wanted to show you this because it can take that long for ginger to sprout. So plant a lot and you won't have to wait that much, because chances are you're going to have a few that's going to sprout quicker than others, and then some that are going to be taking forever to grow. Leaving about maybe 2.5 to 3 inches of the smaller roots, and I'm leaving the large, long, thick ones alone. And if the stem has any brown leaves or yellowing leaves, I just cut it off, and I leave about maybe 3.5 to 3 inches of the stalk intact. And if there are baby sprouts coming up, I leave that alone. Yeah, I think I'm done. So what happens is, if there are any pieces with 2 plants, I cut one off and I leave the other one. And if there are pieces with just one, I just leave it like so. So now we're going to replant this ginger. I have prepared a large container. It's going to be a larger container that my ginger was originally growing in. And basically what I'm going to do is take the ginger rhizome that I have trimmed and pruned, as you can see. And the way I'm going to replant this is, I'm going to dig a hole and I'm going to place the ginger rhizome so that the rhizome just sits above the top of the soil, just a little bit, like so. Okay, because what happens is, as I work my way around to this side, I'm going to be putting more soil over onto the other side as I dig holes on this side. So that's why I didn't want it to bury the ginger rhizomes too deep. Here. And let us put one over here. And I am replanting this because I wanted to see if this ginger rhizome can grow bigger. Plus, I wanted to see if it will still grow if I reburied it right away after I dug it up. And if I pruned the roots a little bit, whether it will grow or not. So that is why we are replanting all these ginger pieces. Put a little bit more soil so that the ginger rhizome sits about 1/2 inch below the soil line, and that would be good. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Then what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to help the soil sink down a little bit. And fill itself around the ginger roots and the ginger rhizomes. Alright everyone, so that's all. These are all of my gingers that what I'm going to do is leave this ginger pot to sit outside for about 3 to 5 days before I take it in to overwinter. And I'll ask my plant sitter to give this pot of ginger extra fertilizer every month, and we'll see how large they will get. And hopefully I'll have some opportunity in the future to update you and to let you know. So until then, thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you. Bye!